Hi, my name is Jacob Adams, curator for the Heather Mitchell post on the Virginia onAir Elections and Governance Hub. I sat down with Heather Mitchell, candidate for the Virginia 2nd House District, for an interview.
And my middle daughter, she was starting out as a freshman in high school. My son was starting out in middle school. And we really sat and thought about it, that we wanted to put some roots down. We wanted to finish raising our kids here in Virginia, because even after 6 months, I fell in love with the place. It reminded me a lot where I grew up in South Carolina. And the neighborhood, it was just fantastic. So we bought a house. You have to understand, we've always lived on base. To date, my husband's been in the Marine Corps for 26 years. So we've lived all over the United States, lived in Japan for 6 years. And when we bought the house, up until then, I never had to worry about property taxes, who was on the school board, who my, board of county supervisors were, because you didn't have to worry about that. So I took a hard look at it and started volunteering with the local Republican committee, volunteered on some local races, some delegate races, statewide races, and I ended up with the job that I have now. I'm the senior aide to the chairman of the Prince William Board of County Supervisors, and part of my job is I follow the legislative priorities for Prince William County. So this past General Assembly, this past January and February, I sat at my desk for 46 days and I watched the live stream and I flipped between the House and the Senate. And I was just floored by a lot of the legislation that was being put forth. I was paying particular interest in my delegate because not only did she represent Prince William, but she represented me in Stafford. And I realized I've never seen her at any of the community events. I did not see her involved in our neighborhoods or in our communities. And to me, if you are an elected official representing a district or an area, you need to be involved with that area so you know what it is that your neighbors are looking for you to do when you go to Richmond. And I've always been a behind the scenes person. Never ever in a million years would I thought I would ever run, for an office. But when I found out nobody was going to be challenging our current delegate, I felt compelled to run because I'm looking at, I want to be represented, and you're not representing me or my neighbors. And that's kind of how I got involved. I would be working and it's funny, transportation. Infrastructure, traffic is the number one issue in the 2nd House District because you've got the I-95 corridor, Route 1 runs right through it. I can promise you I cannot fix traffic. But I'd like to think a little more outside of the box on how we can solve our transportation needs. There's been an idea kicked around for 20 years that, let's extend the Blue Line, Metro down into Prince William. Metro is fantastic, but right now Metro needs to kind of get a little more organized before they can even think about expanding. And plus right now the infrastructure is not in place. So that's something that I probably won't see within the next 30 years. So, okay, you kind of put that to the side. Well, what other options do we have? I'd like to see the localities working a little bit more together. Meaning like Prince William has OmniRide. And I do know OmniRide is going to be starting a route to the 610 commuter lock down in Stafford. But I'd like to see it expanded a little bit further. Let's bring it down to Courthouse Road and even down to 17, because there's 2 other big commuter lots right by the 95 corridor. Because what you have is you have a lot of people that are driving from Stafford County up into Prince William, taking the space at the commuter lots in Prince William to jump on the bus and then go to their final destination, be it, to a metro station, to Tyson's, to the Pentagon, or ultimately up to DC. So if we can get more people off the roads further south, that means less traffic going north. I'd like to look in that. I'd also like to look into expanded VRE services, have more trips throughout the day, and then also maybe on weekends, because I think a lot of people further south would happily jump on a train if they want to go up to see, the Redskins play, or, catch, a baseball game, or go to any of the museums up there. I know when my daughter lived in Arlington, I didn't see her as much as I would have liked because I didn't want to sit in traffic, because especially during the summer, you don't go on 95 or Route 1 unless you want to spend all day in the car. The biggest one, and it has nothing to do with legislation, is local elections. Who you vote for as your supervisor, who is your Commonwealth attorney, those things affect you on a daily basis. And I don't think a lot of people really think about that. You have a lot of voters that go out and they vote in presidential elections. Yes, on the federal level, things do affect you on the local level, but your local elections, those affect your day-to-day lives as to the roads you drive on, the schools that you send your children to. It's imperative that you vote in these small elections because they have a more profound impact on your daily lives. And that's something that I tell my kids. I've got two that are of voting age now, and I'm like, you need to follow your local politics. You need to vote, because you'll call, my oldest daughter will call me and, oh, Mom, I'm stuck on 66 again. I could do the express lane, but that's like $45. She's 23. That's something that's not, in her wheelhouse of being able to do right now. And I'm like, well, you need to put people in office that can try to do something about it. One of the biggest things that I'd like to try to do, if I'm fortunate enough to win, is to put a lockbox on the transportation funding. We have money going in there, but what happens a lot of times is money will be taken out for other projects and it'll be replaced. But what happens is when that money is taken out, all of the projects basically will come to a screeching halt because the funding is not there at that particular moment in time. And generally any road project takes about, from beginning to end, about 6 years. So if it takes a year to put that money back in, that's another year that you're adding on to another road project. Reach out to your local committees, regardless if you're Republican or Democrat. Each locality has them. There's a lot of women's clubs on both sides. Just get involved that way. Go to a Board of County Supervisors meeting. Just go to a school board meeting, because that's where you'll really find out what's going on in the area and how you can help. That's the biggest thing, is to get involved. Is a lot of times people have to kind of go outside of their comfort zone. I know I'm definitely outside of my comfort zone right now, but it needs to be done, because otherwise you're letting a very small fraction of people determine how you live in your community. And by getting more involved, there's more voices, and I think more good things can happen, because even if you've got differing opinions, there's always a middle ground that you can find. But we also have to bring the art of communication back. I noticed when we moved back to the States 5 years ago how divisive politics has become. It's either, if you don't agree with me 100%, you're a horrible person. And this is on both sides of the aisle. And I think sitting down and actually having a conversation with somebody and listening. So much I've noticed today is people are talking at each other and not to each other. And I think if we sit down and talk to each other, because if you look at it, we all want the same things. We want to prosper. We want to have, a good home, good family life, being able to do the things we want to do. But how we get to that is where the problem lies. But I think if we come together and have a conversation, talk with each other and not at each other, I think we can accomplish a lot of really great things. Well, I've not been able to, obviously I've never been an elected official, so there's no anything written on the books. I'll honestly say it's my kids. I have moved my kids, I think my oldest daughter, she's 23 now, we've moved her 8 times, from one state to another, overseas twice. We've stayed a very close-knit family. We have our family group chat. Every morning everybody's saying, good morning, funny little memes and things. And just raising them to be good human beings, to respect other people. And I think, to me, I've raised three great people, and that's my greatest accomplishment. Look at your candidates. Actually look at them and research them. People go out, we door knock. You get handed a palm card, and lists all these things. But I'll honestly say, look at somebody's Facebook page to see how actually involved in the community they really are, and what they really are looking to achieve. Just getting involved and reading about it. See which candidate has the same priorities that you do in life, and those are the things that you should look for, because you're never going to agree with any candidate 100%, and you should never agree with a candidate 100%. You should, obviously have your own opinions, but it's important. I can't stress enough to get out and vote. That's my biggest thing.